So as you know, dogs have their own focus and their own priorities set. In some of the cartoon movies and some of the things that you would have seen, they always go after the bones. They have got their priorities right. If you've got a bone there, the dogs just go after it. So it's always, clear for them. They know what they want and what they need, and it's what they have always, in front of. If it is there, that's it. That's the first thing they would just lunge on and then take it. So it's pretty much about priorities. Priorities is prioritization is pretty important for not just for the software development, but also in terms of what we live, how we live, and what kind of work that we do. Irrespective of each of these, it's really important for us to kind of prioritize our work, our business, prioritize our product development, prioritize our life choices, everything. So prioritization pretty much comes up in whatever we do as part of a life. So what is prioritization really? Just to set the context, prioritization is about taking a decision about something, right? It's about whether it could be your life choice, it could be something to do with your technology preference, your career choice, for example, is also prioritization. So that's where we talk about prioritization in terms of, for example, you take it could be index cards, it could be post-its, it could be in your own mind, you actually think in terms of what is good for you. Some of the people, I too get some kind of inquiries, and people ask me for advice. Which one should I take? Should I be a BA or should I be focused on developer? Or if I'm a developer, do you think I should be focused on next important thing like Python, or should I actually kind of diversify into something else like database, right? These are all choices. These are all some of the important aspects that we do need to consider when we are making some kind of life choices, right? So prioritization is not just limited to the work. It is actually about our career, about our life choices, about whatever we do every day, day in and day out. And that's where prioritization is really, really important. So what is prioritization? It's about identifying the requirements, not just requirements, the features, the functionality of a product, or it could be the pieces of work that you would do, or it could be the choices that you take as part of your career and life. So you prioritize, what do you need to do first and what do you need to do next, right? So it is all in terms of the relative importance. It's actually relative, right? So if you say that you actually cannot see, nobody can see further than, let's say, 5 years, 10 years. Previously, it was 5 years. Now, even businesses are looking at a shorter term of 1 year. With all the things happening around us, the kind of visibility that we have, the time frame has reduced from 5-10 years to actually kind of quarters, 3 quarters, 2 quarters to 1 year max. That's a long term. So within that period, what is it that is important for me as a person or for a business, right? In terms of their goals, their requirements, their vision, and also where they sit in the context of the life cycle. So that could be not just important, but also most important thing that we should actually consider there is urgency. So it's not just being important, but also urgent. What is important and what is urgent to do now rather than sometime later. So we'll have a look at, there is actually kind of a tool that you would that you can use. So we're going to give you that tool in a few slides later. We talk about the importance versus urgency. So that's a kind of a matrix you can use to help prioritize your decisions. So bear in mind that prioritization is not a one-time act. You don't do it once and forget it. You actually kind of do it pretty much like every day, every minute, every second. We have got this kind of choices, right? We are thrown with choices, whether to eat, what to eat, right? What to eat when. And so you have got that option to prioritize even your eating choices, your living choices, your lifestyle choices, and the product features, functionality, everything. So it's important we do realize that prioritization is not just one time, but actually kind of grows. It pretty much is like entire life cycle of your work, whether you're working on a project or a particular product development initiative, a program, or it could be your own life. And then the most important thing is here that prioritization actually is a kind of simple technique or an activity that you do, but then it is actually feeding into the much larger aspect of your planning, how you're planning your approach. If you do not prioritize where you want to go, you can actually prioritize in terms, for example, You want to go to a separate on a holiday, for instance. I mean, not now, but some other time, or you would actually plan something for going to a holiday in 2022, for instance. So you can decide how you want to go, what you want to go, the plan. So in terms of prioritization, you've got some ideas how you can prioritize your funds, how you can actually prioritize your time, your work time, your if you have got children, how they would come up there in that context, that their priorities, all of these. You should consider pretty much everything, and that's where you need to consider the some of the aspects like identification of options, analyze those options, and then you kind of implement or execute those options, and then evaluate whether they have taken the right decision or not. And then this is continuous. This is a loop. The circle continues forever. This goes on and on and on and on. It doesn't stop with one cycle. It doesn't stop with one sprint. The next sprint comes up, you again need to take prioritization of features, you again need to plan, you again need to execute, you need to review. So all of these are important in that context. And I think you all understand now by now how important and how critical prioritization is in the context of software development, and also a lot of other things as well. And what do we prioritize? So if you have got the question, you can prioritize your own life decisions, your career choices, you can prioritize business aspects, you can prioritize which markets you would like to enter into, you can prioritize some of the product aspects like the features, the releases, the functionality requirements, you can prioritize the technology aspects, which platforms, what operating systems, which devices. There are so many options and so many choices that you need to kind of pick and choose which ones work out better than the other. And that's all about prioritization. It's all about the decisions. Business strategies, when it comes to business strategies and business aspects, the senior management, the salespersons, the marketing teams, the business development team, these are the people, these are the teams, they would actually kind of structure, they strategize, they actually look at what are the options we have, what kind of roadmap we can actually kind of embark in the next one year, next 5 years. What are competitors doing? What are the kind of options that we can lay in for the next 3 quarters? What directions we need to go? What kind of products should we enter into the services segment? Should we enter into Asian markets? Should we enter into American markets? What about the European markets? How we're doing within each market? What are the other options we can have? Can we merge our businesses with something else? Do we have the merger and acquisition options? So all of these decisions are actually being taken on the business front, and the strategy is laid out there. And in terms of the staffing plans, we actually need to look at the people involved, the kind of skills that we need to get on board. If we have got a project, this project needs, let's say, 5 developers, 2 architects, 3 testers. So we are actually on 2 analysts and 1 subject matter expert. We need to have a Scrum Master to run the Agile project. We need to have a product owner, some designated role. So many things to actually look into, right? So it's all about prioritization. You're prioritizing the team structures, the resources. You're looking at the people who are coming on board, what comes first. Again, prioritization is not just in terms of planning, but also what is it that is the most important and urgent now, rather than something that I can actually do later, right? So that's the prioritization aspect. So if you want to start a project, which is to build a e-commerce website that we talked about the last time, for selling mobile accessories, what is the most important thing, most urgent thing that you need to do now as part of a team? You need to have at least 1 or 2 developers. We need to have an analyst who understands the whole aspect of e-commerce. How does that work? We need to have an architect to actually come up with a blueprint for the whole technology and infrastructure roadmap for this, the deployment architecture, the component architecture. And do we need to have testers? Yeah, better to involve them in the first instance, so we can have 1 tester to actually start thinking the test strategy and the test plans, right? So we are now talking about having at least this team of 6 people to start off in a lean way. And as and when we actually get into the next level, we can actually think in terms of getting more people. Oh, we need to have Python developer. We need to have a backend developer. We need to have a database expert. We need to have a DBA, the database administrator, for managing the database on, let's say, Oracle or SQL. So depending on the technology or the platform or the operating system that you have decided, you would then prioritize the number of resources, the kind of resources and the people that you would need. We need to have a cloud infrastructure. If you're going cloud, we need to have a server. If you're hosting it on premise, we need to have a server to host this website. So all of these decisions you're prioritizing. But then the reason why I'm saying prioritization is because not all of them are urgent. Some of them can actually wait for a later point of time. For example, the decision to choose a hosting partner. Should we go cloud or should we host it in-house with some of the local servers that we install in our own premises? Or should we host with some third-party hosting partner like Just Host or Do Host or Big Daddy, whatever? So we decide that. We can decide these slightly later when it comes to that point. But for now, we can prioritize that. We need to first look at the aspect of the vision, what should go in first, what is the release plan, so the product management aspect comes into picture, right? So that's the whole idea of prioritization. And then we go ahead with the implementation, with the actual work, doing the work, and then trying to come up with a solution, trying to actually work on the solution, make sure that the solution is actually developed in its full entirety. In the context of e-commerce website, the functionality of the catalog should actually be ready. So we should have a front end, kind of a design on the UI web page, so people can actually look at the catalog, the items, all the screen protectors and the cases, the mobile cases, different cases, all of those, they should be able to actually look on the screen. So we need to have a designer as well there to come up with a design to actually kind of integrate, and the developer should integrate this design, the page, HTML or the kind of PHP page, into the backend. So when they select into the database, so when you select something, an item there, that gets into the shopping cart, or you are actually showing the details of that. So the developers would actually need to work on the solution of all of these to be able to link the front end with the back end through some kind of an API or middleware, right? So we talked about the IDE using some kind of a integrated development environment, something like Visual Studio.NET for .NET Microsoft solutions, or you can use GitHub for an open source collaborative platform. So we talked about all these decisions and the solutions that we need to consider last time. So we need to actually go ahead with that. We need to decide what kind of technology stack. When I say technology stack, this is something you keep hearing every now and then. So technology stack means what kind of tools and what kind of technologies you're using for developing your solution. So a stack generally means there is a front end, basically what is on the presentation layer. Then there is a middleware where the application logic exists. And then there is a backend where the data layer. So typically this is, you can have multi-layers, a lot of other things, complexities involved, but then this is called an entire architecture. So typically web applications, websites, mobile applications, all of these are in this entire architecture. The other architecture used to be called as client server architecture. I don't want to get into details of these. We'll discuss this in the next few sessions anyway. But just wanted to actually talk about this because it's important that we know what is technology stack. So the decisions and the prioritization aspect of the technology stack, again, is very important. So you see that we pretty much prioritize everything that we do in terms of the technology stack, the tools, the features, functionality, requirements, the people, when they come into the project, and what kind of skills we get into the project.